If you're looking for a tween G-rated book version of What Women Want that flips the genders, you finally found it. Hi everyone, I'm Jacob, I'm the Cowhat Librarian, and I'm here today to talk to you about I Speak Boy by Jessica Brody. The premise is simple, at least from the inside cover. Emmy's phone somehow obtains an app that lets her understand boys, and it causes all sorts of hijinks. At least, that's what it sounded like when I read the inside cover, but it's not quite the case. Emmy is at a carnival with her friend Harper, and Emmy is sort of addicted to her phone. She has 17 million apps, all that do different things, and some of which she sure would be useful if she ever needed them, but she's not quite sure when she'll need them. And using a romantic compatibility app, she's determined that Elliot is the perfect boy for her friend Harper, and she hatches a plan to set Harper up with Elliot during this carnival. So they wander over to this kiddie pool that's set up as a magical fountain of sorts, and Emmy's plan starts to go off without a hitch. She lures Elliot over there under the pretense of needing help with the riddle app and starts hinting to him that there might be someone there who likes him, and Harper runs off. And Elliot continues though, because in fact he doesn't have a crush on Harper, he has a crush on Emmy. And in the process of her denying it and trying to convince him that Harper's the girl he should be interested in, Emmy lands in the pool with her phone. She's horrified. It looks like her phone is toast. So she dries it out in a bag of rice overnight, and the phone comes back to life. The only thing is, Emmy previously had an app on her phone called I Speak that helped to translate languages. She was playing a game of Monopoly online with someone across the world, and it allowed her to translate what the other player was saying. But when her phone recovered from being splashed in the water, the app had been replaced by something called I Speak Boy. And when Emmy starts the app, it starts recording what's being said around it in the form of text messages, and it spits out replies that indicate what the boy is thinking. So a boy might be talking about the video game he's playing with his friends, but he's thinking about whether his hair is looking good today. He might be talking about a hard test, but he's thinking about how he's short and wishing that he didn't have to put extra socks in his shoes to make him appear taller. He might be talking about the ball game last night, and he's thinking about the cute girl he has a crush on. It gives Emmy an unprecedented window into what the boys at her school are thinking. But things aren't perfect. You see, the previous night, Harper wandered back just as Elliot was confessing his interest in Emmy, and is quite mad at Emmy, understandably so. And Emmy's new app, for some reason, does not work on her next door neighbor, someone she was friends with as a child and who she's gradually drifted apart from. And it shows exactly what he says, indicating that he always says exactly what he's thinking about. Left unsaid is whether that just means her neighbor has no internal filter, or whether he's just a very sincere person, but that's beside the point. Anyway, Emmy decides that she can use this app to do what she couldn't do for Harper, to be a bit of a matchmaker in her school and help all the girls to understand which boys like them and why. And hijinks ensue. It was pretty good. The author made the story really well written, and it had some interesting elements about communicating with people in general outside of the app, about Emmy's communications with her mother's difficulty communicating with a client, both of their difficulty communicating with Emmy's twin brothers who speak in a made-up language of their own. There's some really neat stuff in there about the different ways people communicate and miscommunicate with each other. The story and conflict between Emmy and Harper was very, very real, especially as the story progresses and Emmy realizes what was really at the heart of Harper's anger with her. It was really well written in all those regards. And the ending was satisfying. It wasn't entirely unsurprising, but I'll get to that in a minute. But it didn't lead directly there either. And I recommend it. And if you were a fan of Clicked by Tamara Ireland Stone, I think you'd get a lot out of I Speak Boy and vice versa. Now, with that all said, this book was not perfect. There are spoilers ahead because I have to talk about the deal breaker. Okay, so it shouldn't be a big surprise that the deal breaker has to do with the magical ability of Emmy's phone and its role in the story. The premise of the book, that her phone would translate what boys actually said into wording that Emmy and her friends would understand, was a lot of fun. I liked that idea. That a boy could babble on about something that he and his friends play, a video game, for example, or a sports thing that maybe Emmy wasn't quite as familiar with, and it would explain it in more general terms. Much like the Thing Explainer book by Randall Munro, perhaps. I really liked that idea. But for this phone app to read minds was just a little step beyond. And it got a little bit ridiculous, in my opinion. I understand that the app needed to work in different ways for the story to progress and for Emmy to learn the things she needed to learn, but it got ridiculous. Not only can Emmy use the phone to listen to conversations and have it translate what the boys are thinking, but she was able to use it to glean insight as to what Shakespeare was thinking when he wrote A Midsummer's Night's Dream, and use that to impress the pants off her teacher. First off, ridiculous. Magic or not, there's no way that this phone could glean intent from words on a page that had a 10th generation separation from the creator. There's no way. Magic should follow an internal logic. In Harry Potter, they wave the wands, say the words, and use the particular movements, and magic happens. Here, somehow the phone gleaned from a typewritten page which Shakespeare was thinking when he wrote it. And I thought that was ridiculous. And the idea that her teacher would take that knowledge as amazing insight was a little unbelievable to me as well. If I were a teacher and a student who hadn't previously been known for a lot of talent or desire to succeed in a particular subject, all of a sudden came up with something brilliant I hadn't thought of before, I wouldn't assume they'd done the work. I would have assumed they were cheating. Or I believe that a lot of teachers, at least in fiction, would not accept that as the true meaning because it had been drilled into them over the years, over discussions, over what they learned as to the true meaning and intent of things. And so for her teacher to just accept it and be blown away, that was pretty unrealistic. The phone app interpreting art and gleaning understanding from it was even more ridiculous. Art is so subjective, and I have a very hard time believing that it would interpret a drawing or a painting and be able to glean the phrase, "I love you" from it. The magic was far, far, far too convenient. And the last part, well, I completely understand this. This book is written for a tween audience. I can't believe that in the whole time Emmy was using the app, all she ever had translated, all she ever picked up from recording the thoughts of the boys and men around her, because it does indicate that the phone can understand men as well, that all these thoughts just happen to be G-rated. At the time of the book, Emmy is 12. She's attending middle school. The boys around her are almost certainly going through puberty, and they are almost certainly having all sorts of additional thoughts that aren't even hinted at. And I understand why, but it just, it makes the magic of this app ring really hollow. It is both far more capable than it really should be, and also far more self-censoring than it should be. Either that, or Emmy just happens to coincidentally always be around boys who are thinking nice, clean, G-rated thoughts about their socks and hair, and at its raciest, things about bras and how they actually work. Anyway, I still recommend it with all those caveats, and I think there are a lot of people who'd get a lot out of this book, especially, as I said, for fans of Clicked by Tamara Irelandstone. With that, thank you for listening to me ramble and rant about magic and logic and consistency. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, please subscribe, and please check back to see what else I have to talk about from the Cowhat Library. Thank you. Bye now.